sometimes it'll be the case that I'm looking at a specific piece of artwork on a place where I post art to social media. It'll have those things based, the front page where it shows you things and the algorithm puts like posts in front of you, and sometimes I'll get ones with really cool art styles, and then as I'm going in to find a way to keep it there so I can go back to it, something happens and the app refreshes and boop, it's gone. And and the best I can do is just try and remember what the art style I was looking at looked like, and yesterday's thumbnail was me. It's different from the art style I was talking about in the video itself. It was another one that I found afterwards, and as I was looking at it, just boo, gone, and I lost it. I lost it right as I was looking at it. I was like, oh, this looks really cool, and then it was gone, and I couldn't find it again. So I quickly took to the thumbnail and tried to recreate it as best as I could remember. I think the pupils are off. And just in terms of style, I think there's supposed to be a little more to the shape of the eye itself and more in the corner to really give the effect. So I think for today's thumbnail, I'm going to try it again, maybe, and see if I could get it closer just based on that information. But I lost it, and I couldn't get it back. I even tried doing the best I could with just trying to describe it, and unfortunately it didn't work, and I wasn't able to find it again, which was disappointing. But yeah. I wish I would have been able to find it again. It looked really cool. The artwork. But yeah, today was pretty good. Another slowish day at that job that I'm at. And there was how would I phrase it? It was good for, except for, again, learning at least one thing that I gotta correct the next time. It was a specific thing to do with like ordering a particular thing between, and the company covers it, and it turns out, oh, I didn't. The thing is, I haven't been taught. I don't know the rules of these specific things. So today, I learned a specific rule regarding one of the things that I didn't know before. And unfortunately, the thing is that the person I asked about it didn't know the rule either. So just to be, because I wasn't in the know for sure. So I talked to the person and I was like, blah blah blah. By the way, can I do this? And they're like, yeah, I think you can. And so I did it. And then later they're like, I got in trouble. It got me in trouble. I wasn't supposed to do that. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. I'll remember that for next time. So tomorrow is next time, and I gotta remember not to make that mistake again. But I felt really bad. It's like, darn. Well, now we both know. And we won't be repeating that mistake again. I won't be repeating that mistake again. Certainly, I don't want to get the other person in trouble at all. This is literally just another person. I don't want to get my coworker into trouble again over something like that. But now I know. Now I know that there is like a specific limit to a certain thing. So, going to keep that in mind so that I don't cause trouble for her again. But I'm trying to think, was there anything else really about the day? Not really. I guess it was just feeling guilty and like a little icky about messing that part up. Made me a little sad. She seemed a little extra on edge today as well. It had nothing really to do with me, but like there was a sort of edginess going around today when I first arrived, but when it was already like that when I got there. And so I can't take that on myself. I didn't create it. It was already there. So, don't go blaming yourself. You're good. But then after that, I was just like, oh, that part, like, no, that was me. That was on me. That's on me. I didn't know. I didn't know. And then someone, I made an accomplice to the thing. And of course, that person gets blamed because they put in the ticket. So I'm going to fix that next time. I can relieve that much. I can relieve at least that much of the situation. But yeah. Yeah. So that was pretty much that. But I won't specify, but today I saw a video that really annoyed me. But I'm not going to get into that. I just want to mention it so I can get it out. It was a really particular video that really annoyed me, and it was just like, the longer I listened to it, the more I was just like, oh my gosh. I gave it, I have a certain rule. Like, I'll give it. But usually I give videos a rule that, like, it's one thing to hear a different perspective, but if it turns into me just like actively arguing with the video for longer than 5 minutes, and it's very clear that this is like, you know, something I'm just not going to agree with, then I'll let it go to just preserve my time and my energy and just like, I don't want to argue right now, This is something I fundamentally don't agree with. I heard it out for a little bit, but this isn't a conversation. I can't discuss it with the person or anything like that. This is just going to be someone saying this opinion that I disagree with for a long time, like 15 minutes, just, concentrated. So I'm going to leave. I'm just going to go. I gave it a moment and I'm just like, no, I fundamentally am not on the same wavelength with this. So time to leave now. And I got to go make myself food. I gotta go. Me skedaddle. Find something else more constructive for me to do at this moment. But today I mainly wanted to talk about. Today I mainly wanted to talk about some ideas I had in the past, but if you just give me a second, I gotta pull up that document. But in the meantime, that was the last thing I was talking about, so I guess I'll keep talking about it. But yeah, there are lots of times where I'll hear someone else out on an opinion or a view that maybe I don't agree with, and then they'll explain their thing. But it's another thing when it's like a video, 20-minute long video of just like, I know I'm just going to spend my whole time arguing with this, and I don't really want to argue right now because I'm going to treat it like the person is really here and I'm talking to the person and coming up with like things of like, well, this isn't quite right, and what does this mean exactly, and what are you trying to, but that doesn't make any sense, or blah blah blah, and then I get all riled up, and then I'm just like, no, I don't want to spend my evening doing that and just like getting upset at stuff on the internet or at posts. I think it would be a lot better for me to just let that go and continue on with what I was looking to do. And yeah, what's nice is that it gets a little easier each time to be able to do that. Just let stuff go and not just not find arguments to get dragged into, which I would rather not do at the moment, especially if it's not going to be constructive. I'm almost to where I'm looking for. Just a second. I wonder how much other people go through that. There are times when I'll hear something and it'll change my mind and I'll get like a whole new view on the thing and I'll be like, oh, that's really interesting. I never considered that before. And then there are other times where I'm just, you know, I know I'm fundamentally just opposed to or against it or disagree with it, or my experiences just tell, you know, my experience, my, just like personal live stuff or experience or whatever you want to call it, just tells me like, no, that's off. That's not quite right. Or like, maybe from that person's perspective, this is what this is, but I've been through quite a bit with, something like that, and this is what I've experienced as well. At that point, it's not really a matter of opinion, it's just a matter of, like, well, experience. It's like someone who's only experienced with a dog is them being bit by dogs, whereas someone else who's experienced with dogs is, like, raising them and petting them. But when one person tries to say that their experience means all dogs are violent and mean and like evil and should be put down, the other person's experience tells them that that's like a fundamentally wrong thing. It's not wrong for you to be scared of dogs or think they're dangerous, but they're also not a good amount of the time. Anyway. I just found an old document of mine. I'm almost there. Give me just a second. Just a second. I remember that. Summaries. Is it the summaries? No, it's not the summaries. Untitled document. Yeah, that's what that... Okay, leave that be as well. That has nothing to do with anything. Oh, is that where this is? Yes. That's where that is. Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm just looking through. Oh, yeah! I just remembered something else I wanted to talk about. There's... It's an interesting situation. There's a composer that I like, but I don't necessarily listen to their music. Does that make sense? You ever had like an artist or a composer that you liked, but you liked the impetus, the thought behind the composer, you liked their philosophy, not even necessarily the person, but you like their philosophy and what they're going for more than the actual artistry itself. But you don't dislike their artistry, you just, their actual artwork isn't necessarily for you, but you can acknowledge that it's pretty genius, it's pretty great, but it's that thing where it's like, yeah, this is fantastic, I don't like it, but it's fantastic, I can tell you're very good at what you do, this is high quality, I'm just not into it. And there's this one particular composer. His name is Milton Babbitt. Milton Babbitt is a composer I like quite a bit, but I don't really listen to much of his music. But the thing is that, like, I'll go through, I'll watch the interviews with him, learn about his thought process. I'll study Milton Babbitt. I'll go through his whole thing. I'll hear him talking about utilizing the synthesizer in matters of composers, gaining complete control over time. And they wanted complete control over time and rhythm, and how the synthesizer allowed them to do that. And how, but like, once it's out of the speakers, there's nothing that you can do once the sound leaves the room. I find Milton Babbitt really interesting as in an academic sense, if that makes sense. And he doesn't come off to me as being like necessarily pompous or arrogant, or what's the other word I'm looking for? Um, Pretentious. He really just seems like a guy who had a set goal of what he wanted to try and attempt, and he really went out of his way to try and achieve, and I think he really did achieve what he was looking for. And that's the most amazing thing to me. So again, it's not like I haven't listened to his music. It's that I haven't listened to a lot of it, or necessarily like for long periods of time. Like I've listened to his Philomel. I've listened to Philomel. I've listened to his composition, 3 compositions for piano. I've listened to Duet. I've listened to oh, was that Elliot Carter, or was it? No, I don't think it was Elliot Carter, because they're doing two very different things. Yeah, I mean, I can tell their sounds apart between Elliot Carter and Milton Babbitt. They do have very different sounds. But no, Milton Babbitt, his what was it called? Was it his symphony? I know I've heard his violin work. Hold on. Let me see what it was called. Milton. It has a specific picture, and that'll help me remember what it was. There's 3 compositions. Oh, All Set. The one specifically where Bill Evans performed it. Ooh, I actually kind of want to listen to Minute Waltz. I have heard his Piano Concerto number 2. Let's see. There it is. Concerto for Piano and Orchestra. That's the one I heard. And his composition for synthesizer, his first one. But I'd say more than Milton Babbitt, I've heard Vladimir Usichevsky, and his sonic contours, and his different pieces of music. But Milton Babbitt, I would say I'm a little more limited on that. But, I really like Milton Babbitt in a more academic sense. But in terms of his music, like, I'll sort of go off and on with engaging it. But I do try to engage with it as much as I can. And try to get a feel for it. Because his music, Elliot Carter and Jesus Rueda as well, I would say mainly with Jesus Rueda and Milton Babbitt more than Elliot Carter. But not discounting Elliot Carter, but for me personally, more with Jesus Rueda and Milton Babbitt. I can tell there's just something I'm not getting, something I'm missing, something that's not quite clicking with me I can tell there's a real genius. There's something under this that I think if I listen to it enough, I start to understand it a bit more. And I do think that is happening as I go through and I listen to their works more and more. I will say, when it comes to Jesus Rueda, the works I like most from him are the ones that are leaning more towards, form and clear melodies, like Shipwrecks. I really like Shipwrecks. I like July by Jesus Rueda, the Symphony Number 4 and Symphony Number 6, and those are the 2 things I just mentioned. His other symphonies, they're okay. I'm not too. I will say his first 6 symphonies I really like, as well as Into Darkness. But once you get into his later symphonies, maybe once they're orchestrated, but as it stands, on his channel, he has synthesized versions of his symphonies. They're okay. I haven't really liked any of them, and that's not necessarily because they're synthesized. It's just the style and the they're all right. I do like his 3 September Days piano concerto. I like that quite a bit. But yeah, me switch off of that for a second. Another thing that came up the other day is that I was thinking about the usage of words, and I was thinking about there was someone in the group who used the word decimate, and they were coming up with the story, and they said like this character was so powerful that they decimated half of the so and so army, and I kept thinking to myself, well, I mean that doesn't really make sense. Decimate, deci, means to reduce something by 1/10. So if you decimate half an army, you can't decimate half an army. You you're either, because you decimate half an army, well, decimate is reducing it by 1/10, half is reducing it by 50%. You can't have both unless the wording was that there was only half the army left, and then you reduce that by 1/10. But I know the person was specifically referring. The person was What the person was getting at was that the character annihilated half the army, obliterated half the army, destroyed, that kind of thing, and that they had they didn't know what decimate really meant. They used it in a very vague. What's the word? They vagarized, vague. They made decimate vague, basically, a vague word. They didn't actually know what it meant, but they used it, and that got me thinking about how the beauty of words and specific meanings. Decimate. There's a whole suite of words out there that can be used in place of what that person was meaning, but I think it's really beautiful and fantastic that there are such specific words for that convey specific meanings. Like, what am I thinking of? It's like if you're not willing to learn a word, you end up reducing the strength and the impact and the ability of language to develop. The more vague people treat words, it's like you have to restart all over again. It's like a mountain that keeps getting broken down as it gets built up. And the beauty of words like decimate is how it conveys such a specific idea as such a simple word. Decimate, reduce by 1/10. It's so something about that. And another word that I thought about after that was words like liminal. People nowadays treat liminal as just meaning dreamy, surreal, weird, off-putting, dreamcore, dreamy, surreal. What are some other words? Uncanny. That's another one. Uncanny. Surreal synonyms. There's one that's coming to the tip of my tongue. No, not really that. Okay, I'll just leave it. But liminal literally just means like a space or a state in between, or leading to, or like a path between. It's or that exists. There you have one thing on one, and you have another thing. You have one thing here, another thing there. Liminal is that like junction in the middle. Sometimes it's completely disconnected and has nothing to do with one to the left and one to the right, but it somehow was just in between those two states or spaces. Or so when people would say liminal spaces, a liminal space is literally like a hallway, stairs, a waiting room, doorways, a junction, passages. There's a reason why the original liminal photos were of like office hallways, waiting rooms, like elevator spaces, stairwells, that they were of a specific area. But the thing is that people didn't really recognize that pattern. They didn't know what the word meant. So they just took the feeling of seeing these like empty spaces, and then misinterpreted the word liminal as just basically made it vague until it just became like a bunch of other words. Words that would be better at describing the feeling, and so you have another word that loses its power, loses its strength. The beauty of a word that can encapsulate such a specific idea, such a specific feeling, is reduced into just being surreal, dreamy, that kind of thing. And I think it's beautiful that a word like liminal captured that specific like feel of a particular kind of space, a particular kind of idea. It doesn't make those things lesser that they aren't liminal spaces, that they're just dreamy spaces or abstract or surreal. But it's beautiful that there is a word that can capture that specific idea of those junction places, those middles, in between spots, those let me yeah, a threshold. Yeah, roads, halls, walking spaces, just like paths between two different rooms or thresholds, entrances. Yeah, yeah, basically. But oh no, it just makes me sad to see when words aren't respected or are lost, because it reduces imagination. It reduces, suddenly you have to create a tool that already exists just to, it's like there's a word to already describe something, and it gets so like vagarized you don't even realize that you have it, if that makes sense. I think it does. It like makes it so that you don't realize what tools you have, and you lose that progress, and now you have to get back to zero. You can't progress into one, and then into two, and then into three, getting into more abstract ideas, and there's a beauty to the specificity of it, the complication of it, and it becomes less complicated the more you embrace it and learn about it, and treat the words with a certain respect for the ideas that they're conveying. Because it gives you a new baseline, it gives you a new foundation to hop off of, and now it's higher than the vague way it's been treated below. Once you have that, you have more of a foundation, and you're able to go to the next level of, well, what's the next level of creative idea, abstraction of this concept? What else can we encapsulate in a single word? Ah, I'm not exactly sure how to put what I have in my head right now, the feeling, into exact words, but it's, hopefully I've conveyed it well enough. I'm trying to think if there's a better way to say it, but maybe it's because I'm forcing it, or maybe I already said it, so I'll just leave it there for right now. Just saw a document for something that probably is not going to go anywhere. It's an older thing, nothing to do with recent stuff. But yeah. One of those old opportunities that just like completely fell apart from poor management. So, yeah, just going to leave that be. But, there was a. Just entertaining myself. There was, I wanted to talk about an idea I had a while ago, but now I'm wondering if I've talked so long about these things, if it might be best if I. Yeah, it's pretty late already for me. If I start talking about this, it's going to be another long while. I'll preserve this energy and start talking about this. I'll dedicate time to it for tomorrow and leave off today without. Yeah, I'll go ahead and do that. I feel like I've. Is there anything else? Let me think. No, there really isn't anything else. And that idea I wanted to talk about, I think I would want to go. I think. Here's the thing. I think I can talk about it quickly, but I said the same thing about when I went to talk about Metroid, and that turned into. What is it, like 5 to 6 hours of me talking about. Let me see here. Uh, let's see. I can just pull it up. 2 hours, 2.5 hours, 2 hours, 2 hours. So that's 4 hours, 6 hours, 6.5 plus 2. That's 8 hours, 8.5 plus that half, 9 hours. 9 hours talking about Metroid. Just about. That was just a sloppy count. I don't know if I did it right, but yeah, 9. Yeah, I get the feeling if I start talking about this idea, it is going to turn into something very long. So, I'm going to go ahead and stop there for now. And yeah, come back to it tomorrow. Preserve that energy and help me. It'll help me carry it into tomorrow. So, that's it.